Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing, and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself, and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in. Welcome everybody to this episode of the Ending Body Burnout Show. I'm Chris, this is Philly. What have we got on the cards today, hun?
Yeah, so we have another Connect the Dots episode. I don't think we've done one of these for a few months. So we do have quite a few cases submitted. So thank you so much if you have submitted your case, and bear with us as we work through your cases. It might be a few months after you submit your case. Anyway, so today, if you're new and you don't know what the heck a Connect the Dots episode is, basically Chris and I put our detective hats on and we connect the dots of health symptoms, potential body, mind, environment, root causes, and suggest best lab tests to confirm imbalances and where to go for deeper metaphysical root cause healing. And this is based on real life people's cases that have been submitted to us for the podcast. So thank you so much to today's listener for submitting her case. It is all about fatigue and body pain after extreme stress and burnout, with symptoms still presenting even though the stress has now abated, which is a really common theme that we see in our clients in our Ending Body Burnout method. So I think we'll have a lot of fun digging into this one. Now, before we dive into today's case, if you do want your own case reviewed on a Connect the Dots episode, just head to the show notes below, click the application form, and you can send us your case, or you can even start your journey for real by booking in for a one-to-one Connect the Dots initial consult with myself, and my calendar is just opened. I've got a few spots available for those sessions.
They book out really quick.
They book out really quick, yep. So you can check the link below if you wanted to start your journey. Now, before we do jump into today's case, this is for information, educational purposes only. It definitely doesn't replace having an official one-to-one consult with us where we're looking over all of your case history, or even with your medical doctor or practitioner. So what we discussed today comes from a place of it doesn't come from a place of advice giving. This is not health advice. It's not medical advice. It would be irresponsible for us to tell you what to do based on the very small bits of information we have in an application form. So that's just want to throw that out there. But essentially...
Bases covered.
Essentially, this podcast, it can be really helpful for identifying any missing pieces in your own health journey, and for you to just start looking at, those missing pieces, but also, ways that you can holistically heal yourself, especially if you've tried a bunch of things, but it's kind of like doing a lot of protocols. We go a lot deeper than that.
Hopefully everyone uses these Connect the Dots episodes to start thinking outside of the box, and I think that's something that's missing in the health industry, is that outside of the box thinking, holistic thought. It's the way you do anything, it's the way you do everything.
Yeah. Okay, so when we're breaking down someone's case, I always like to understand what's going on for them in terms of main health concern symptoms. So this lady that submitted the case mentioned that she had a period of extreme stress and burnout for 3 years. The stress has now abated. However, she's still struggling to return to normal. And some of these symptoms that are still presented are chronic fatigues, and which has been happening for 18 plus months. She said she did have extreme chemical sensitivity, but it has thankfully calmed down in the past 6 months. So that's awesome. And I would assume that's because the stress has reduced, but there's also a bunch of lingering symptoms that we'll dive into why we think those symptoms are still there. So she's also struggling with chest and back pain, which comes and goes, bleeding gums, hair loss, brain fog, lightheadedness, night sweats, eczema, and right side gut issues. She said it is intermittent. It feels like a hard lump on the lower right side. There's no diarrhea or constipation associated with that. That's like such a key little detail there, which I'm going to dig into a bit later. She's also had ultrasounds that have showed pelvic congestion and, gone to the GP. All her bloods are okay, even though she doesn't feel okay. And, she mentioned all other GP tests okay, and they can't find the cause of the pain fatigue. So this is where functional medicine and deeper root cause holistic medicine will give you the answers when you get stuck hitting a wall with those GP blood tests and medical specialist tests. So the symptoms started manifesting in December 2023, so about 18 months ago. And around that time, there was a lot of extreme chronic stress for about 3 years leading up to that, or crossing over to that. I'm always curious too around what people have tried, because when we do map out these episodes, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. And this would be the same if I have a client having their first one-on-one connect the dots with me. I always say, I'm going to ask you so many questions, especially around what you've tried and how you responded to those things, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel and we're just doing the same things over and over and over again. What's that saying? Doing the same thing is the definition of insanity.
Yeah, and you can't solve tomorrow's problems or today's problems with yesterday's thinking, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So this is really useful, because then it opens up like, oh, okay, well, these are missing pieces. Although it might feel like you've tried all the things, you haven't. I've tried all the things. It's like, I don't know if it'd be humanly possible to try all the things that is open to human beings on this planet in this modern age in your lifetime.
All right, I've got something to say about this. This is, on one hand, I look at the sentiment behind that, all the things, and that sounds like you've put in effort, you've tried, you've done, you've gone in, you've got rights. I'm kind of slipping into into metaphysical here, but right side masculine, doing, trying, giving, problem solving, all this sort of stuff, very masculine. Surprise, right side body, pain. That's interesting. But then I often think, okay, the sentiment behind that is you're hurting. You're not enjoying your experience. You're giving this a go. You're trying, and you're feeling frustrated. Expectation, you'll find a solution. That's very masculine. Actual result, not solution. Gap in the middle, frustration, flare-ups. You feel effed. Frustration and flare-up, F words. And
frustration.
And then
frustration and flare-ups. Yeah.
F words.
And fatigue.
Yeah. So where was I going with this? So my first invitation to you would just to have a little mental shift is like what you were saying, Philly, about it's highly doubtful you've tried everything, and so therefore the word all is global, yeah. but it's also judgy as well, and it shuts you down. I mean, the very fact that you've submitted your case means that a part of you.
By the way, can I just say that this listener didn't actually use that language? Like, I've tried all the things, but it's very common for other people. So we're not talking to the listener. We're talking to a lot of people that we've had conversations with, especially because we've just closed doors to our ending body burnout method, that we've tried all the things.
Got it. Okay. Well, fair enough. So my invitation would be to just have a shift in that sort of language. If you are using that sort of language, dear listener, anyone who is listening, because then, all is judging. It's closing yourself down, not a whole part of all of you, because a part of you is, listening to this and so you're open to it, but a part of you is closed off to options and solutions and help. You're not looking anymore because you're deflated, you're defeated. It's that whole classical conditioning.
It feels hopeless because it's like, if I tried all the things, then there's nothing left for me to try. So therefore I'm going to be stuck in body burnout for the rest of my life.
Which is a self-fulfilling prophecy in most cases.
I mean, like a simple shift could be, I've tried some things. I've been very wholehearted
I've tried a lot.
with a lot of things.
It could even be a lot, but a lot is not all.
Yeah. So what this listener has tried is fasting, diet changes, hot cold therapy, supplements. Hasn't specifically said what those diets are or what those supplements. So again, if I was talking to someone one-on-one, I would ask a lot of questions around those things. Yoga, meditation. I reduced my stress. I've been resting, grounding, chiropractor, acupuncture appointments, detoxed home, skin care, and pantry. So a lot of that is great. Like, I also, when I see that, it's like, awesome. It sounds like you have changed up the foundational things that's going to help your body to heal. If you're not healed yet, if the symptoms are still present, then we just need to go deeper. So it's actually wonderful when you've tried a lot of things. It means you're not starting at square one, which can be a longer journey. Okay. So in our practice, when we're looking at what's happening underneath body burnout, what's causing it, we look at two main areas of causation that can cause body burnout and chronic health issues. So that's physical inflammatories and metaphysical inflammatories. So physical inflammatories are things like infections, toxins, nutritional deficiencies, gut imbalances, hormone chaos, immune dysregulation. Metaphysical inflammatories are things like unresolved trauma, chronic stress, unconscious core beliefs, identity, beliefs, emotional suppression, nervous system dysregulation. So it's never one or the other. It's always one and the other. They're very interconnected.
I was also going to add to the metaphysical is sometimes it's not literal. It's not, it's sometimes nonsensical, if that makes any sense. Sometimes the unconscious, your unconscious can't speak to you in literal language, so it has to give you signs and sensations and symptoms.
Yeah.
And so often that's breadcrumbs leading you to investigation.
Yeah. So we'll dig into both sides, and essentially working on one and the other, so the body and the mind, is our holistic approach that we take our clients through in our signature program, the Ending Body Burnout Method. Again, the doors did close recently, but we're back open again in June. So if you're interested in working with us, you resonate with our holistic root cause approach of ending body burnout, then head down to the show notes and you can click on the wait list and pop your name down so that you can jump on in when our doors open next time. And you also get $500 worth of early bird bonuses if you jump in 48 hours early. Okay, so physically, let's talk about the body systems, because it sounds like this woman's, address some of those main lifestyle things. Like, I would be thinking about toxins in the environment, and it sounds like she's gone low tox and she's been working on her diet. And again, does sound like she's been taking some supplements, but there has been no mention of doing any testing beyond GP testing. So I kind of want to start there just from a functional medicine point of view, looking at the body systems. Also, another thing is, it's great that the extreme stress is over or dramatically reduce because it's really hard to heal in a toxic environment. I use the little metaphorical story of the duck in a dirty pond. So if you have a little duck swimming in a toxic, dirty pond and you take the duck out and you try and clean it up, or you do clean it up, and then it goes back into that dirty pond, it's going to be what's going to happen to the duck? It's just going to get dirty and polluted again, which is essentially when you're trying to heal in a really toxic environment, which extreme stress is toxic. So it sounds like the little ducky is out of the dirty pond now, which is great. It means that when you do go deeper into healing and you find those root causes, you will be able to heal. But the fact that the symptoms are still there tells me that there is highly likely body systems that are still burnt out. They've depleted over the years of that chronic stress and they need some TLC. And we'll talk about the metaphysical things that could be stuck in the system as well post that extreme stress. Okay, so some body systems that I would definitely think about when it comes to extreme stress would be the neuroendocrine system. So this would be things like the adrenals, the brain, the mitochondria. We can do lab testing on these areas of the body. Again, GPs don't test these areas. And even though your blood test might come back as fine, functional lab tests will always find something when you don't feel fine because the symptoms must be coming from somewhere. So if the adrenals are fatigued, a really common symptom of that is fatigue. It's not that the adrenal glands themselves get tired. It's more that the brain stops sending the signals down to the adrenals properly. But the term adrenal fatigue is because one of the most common symptoms of adrenal dysfunction is fatigue and energy issues. And I often see that that's the case, especially when someone has both physical and mental fatigue. So I'd definitely be thinking about that. Hair loss is really common with adrenal fatigue as well, and also sex hormones, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment. She also mentioned brain fog. So again, adrenal fatigue, a sign of that can be brain fog, basically because your whole system struggles to regulate stress the way that it used to. And so when your adrenals are shut down, your stress hormones are not responding to stresses in a functional way. And I liken the mind to, if the mind is feeling overwhelmed and it's got all these mental tabs open, at some point you're going to start shutting down some of those mental tabs as protection so that your brain isn't constantly feeling bombarded. And that's often where brain fog could come into it. Neurotransmitters that can become depleted, that are very commonly depleted when there's been chronic stress, are serotonin, adrenaline, and dopamine. And all of these, when they really deplete, again, can lead to fatigue, often more mental fatigue, definitely brain fog, loss of mental clarity would also be part of that picture. And I'd also be thinking about the mitochondria when there's chronic fatigue happening, especially if you're noticing that it's physical fatigue. And a good indication of whether it's like that deep cellular physical fatigue would be if you go for a walk or you exercise, do you feel better or do you feel worse? Now, some people can have fatigue, and when they exercise, they're actually like, I feel so much better. Like I feel like I've got my spark back. That's always super interesting to me because it usually indicates that it's more mental, emotional fatigue. But if you are putting out energy output with that movement and you feel worse, that might look like I need to sit down now for the next half an hour, or I need to have a nap for 2 hours, or I'm struggling to even walk to my letterbox and back and my body just feels really heavy. That could be a key sign that there's either adrenal issues or mitochondrial issues. And if you haven't heard of the term mitochondria, basically they're little cells that live in your muscle tissue, and they're taking food that you're eating and they're converting that into ATP energy. And when those little mitochondrial cells damage, movement can actually make the fatigue feel worse because the mitochondria are still trying to produce ATP energy, but in a really inflammatory way that can cause oxidative damage and more inflammation, and then it circulates back into the muscle tissue and it can cause more fatigue.
My university anatomy and chemistry teacher had a cool way of explaining mitochondria. It was like the factories of the cells, and they create the energy and all this sort of stuff for our body. However, sometimes we're in a bit of a conflict or a situation in our life where it's, like World War II, both sides would bomb each other's factories and all that sort of stuff. So if our factories get bombed out, we don't have much energy to spare. Yeah. So if you're feeling bombed out, your mitochondria have probably been
bombed. Now, I mentioned sex hormones before, like the hair loss was like, oh, that could also be thyroid, maybe sex hormones. Again, I don't know the age of this woman. Actually, that's not a question that we ask on the form. That might be useful. But I'm just wondering if she might be in a perimenopause or maybe even postmenopause age bracket. She did mention the hot flushes. And so potentially if this chronic stress also landed around the same time of perimenopause, so where the hormones are starting to drop and, they're doing all sorts of things over a 12-year period before you go into menopause, then this could be exacerbating all the symptoms. So it could either be that the chronic stress had been negatively impacting the sex hormones, which could exacerbate perimenopause type symptoms, or vice versa. There are already imbalances, things were already dropping, add in some extra stress, and then often that's where like symptom sensations really start to explode for women who are moving through perimenopause. Doesn't always have to be the case if the environment, both external and internal, is healthy and balanced. Now, the other interesting thing was she mentioned the right side gut issues. Now, Chris talked about masculine and feminine energy. Did you want to say anything more into that, or okay, or do you want to come back to it when
Let's come back. I've got a little. I always like to do this. Got my little field notes here. Got my notes of this listener's case.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going
to cross it. Whatever you say, I'm going to cross off, and I'll let you. You can say your thing.
Okay. All right. So we'll keep with the physical first, and then we'll get into the metaphysical. Okay. So right side gut issues. And she says it feels like this hard lump on the lower right side. There's no diarrhea or constipation. First of all, I probably think about like gallbladder, liver, all those organs sit on the right side. So even if GP results showed up as fine, and most GPs, like as a standard blood test overview, would look at your liver enzymes, your kidneys, and I've definitely had clients where their liver markers are totally fine on a GP blood test, but when we do a test that looks at all the detox pathways and different nutrients that support liver function, there have been some major functional imbalances happening. So there might be something going on with that. So that would be really useful to do, say, like an organic acid urine test to look at those detox markers. And potentially, there's different gut testing that we do, but one of our complete microbiome mapping stool tests looks at a marker called steatocrit, which looks at how well you're breaking down fats. Now, if that marker is really high, it often indicates that there's a bile and gallbladder issue happening. Again, even if the blood tests were fine, maybe you might have even had a abdominal scan and they haven't picked up anything in the gallbladder, which is great, but it doesn't mean that there might not be bile, sludge, and issues happening that's affecting digestion. Couple of other things I think around that too would be there might be some blocked lymph nodes in that area, or maybe even trapped gas, which may be caused by something like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, or some other large intestinal tract pathogens. And again, we can test for all of these things to determine where that pain is happening. But the other thing, and I haven't spoken about this on the podcast before, so I thought I'd just mention it. It is something that we have resources for our clients inside our Ending Body Burnout Method program. But on that lower right side abdominal area, you there's a testing point that can determine if there's an ileocecal valve issue. So the term is, or the dysfunction is called ileocecal valve syndrome. And basically it's a gastrointestinal disorder characterized by the malfunction of the ileocecal valve, which is a one-way valve between the small and large intestines. And this malfunction can either show up as an open valve. So that's where the little valve between small and large intestines is just always open, and that's going to cause dysfunction. Or it's closed, or maybe it's even fluctuating between the two. And closed will also cause big issues. And, you know, that's often where you can get like trapped gas and things not moving through down into the large intestines very effectively. So, yeah, a really common area that can show up if that's an issue is that right or lower upper quadrant area of the abdomen, so pain in that area. And it can also cause back pain and chest pain and lightheadedness and fatigue. So that would be something that I would be looking into. Also, you're just talking about like the gut, and another symptom that this listener described was eczema. So a lot of the times eczema is coming from gut issues or detox issues, and it also can be a dysregulated nervous system causing the immune system to be very hypervigilant. All right, so they're the main things that I'm thinking about from the physical body systems point of view. Let's talk about the metaphysical, because again, it's not one or the other. So even if I'm correct with all of those imbalances, and, you know, we have the labs and we've done the tests and all that sort of stuff to determine if that's an issue, our question is always like, why? Mm-hmm. Why is it here? Now, I think this listener believes that it's because of 3 years of chronic stress, which I think is a major contributor. But the fact that there's symptoms still hanging around, and, you know, potential body systems haven't kind of like bounced back, there's got to be a deeper metaphysical reason as to why the body's still holding on to this stress pattern, even though the stress is now abated.
Stress is always the straw that breaks the camel's back. Like, if there's been a period of stress like this, you know, like just because I use COVID as an example. When COVID hit, just because COVID, that whole scene, that whole world, that whole environment happened, doesn't mean you had to lose the plot and things fall apart. For like, we're a great example of that. We actually have
a COVID episode coming up.
Do we?
It's going to be a fun one.
That one. But the thing is, just because you had a period of stress doesn't, there's still a why to ask about that. It's like, well, why was that so stressful? What stories have you got that made that such an issue?
And what's still being held in the body that hasn't been released?
So why was
from that period of time as well, which will be connected to why the extreme stress or the response to that stress was there in the first place.
That's the camel breaking the straw's back. Wait, no, the opposite of that. The camel breaking the straw's back, the straw breaking the camel's back.
Yeah.
You know, like what was already, what were you carrying already?
Yeah.
That's my first thought when it comes to, I know what it is. It was 18 months ago, a lot of stress. It's like, why? That's the metaphysical questioning.
Yeah. And like, there's a few other examples too. So Chris mentioned some people, and we'll dive into this in a very soon to be released episode in terms of our different responses to COVID. But like there's also things like soldiers could go out to war and experience the exact same thing. Some will come back with PTSD, others won't. We also interviewed Dr. Paul Taylor on our podcast late last year.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Yeah. And he was referencing a lot of this stuff as well, and hardiness. Yep. And so he talked about like war and, you know, being in the army, but also there's a lot of research studies around stress in the workplace as well. So some people thrived under stress while other people crumbled. And then it's like, why? What's happening at a unconscious level around patterns, beliefs, maybe stored trauma that was already there before the stress, or the inability to know how to move it out of the body after the extreme stress. That's going to get to deeper unconscious roots as to why the body is still screaming at you.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, it still doesn't feel safe. Even though external stress has gone, there's still a lot of stress happening in the body. This is also really common with people with chronic fatigue syndrome post-stress.
Before we move on, just as a little metaphor of the bleeding gums. Okay, so think about what happens. We're growing apples in our yard, and we've got some lovely apples. I've also got some apples that when I bite into, I'm like, oh, hello, little grub, my little buddy there. But I just think at some points in my life, when I've bitten into an apple, I'm like, oh, wow, my gums are bleeding. And it's not very fun to like, if you've got... What's the I can't think of the condition with bleeding gums, but if you've got bleeding gums, it's not fun to bite into stuff.
Is it?
No, gingivitis is...
No, it's vitamin C deficiency.
Oh, it could be gingivitis, actually. Yeah. Anyway, blah, 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 whatever. So what are you finding hard to sink your teeth into? What part of life is hard to sink your teeth into now? What's bleeding? Like, think about blood as a metaphor. This isn't a diagnostic. This is a questioning. This is investigation. This is a beep in the metal detector figuring out, oh, where do we dig? What's an interesting patch of dirt? And you dig into it and you're just like, oh, dollar coin. Yay, but, or you beep, 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 you dig there and it's like, oh my goodness. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago in my solo podcast episode, but just knowing where to dig, the metaphysical.
Yeah. Now there's some clues as well. So, and this is based on a lot of clients that we have worked with who have come to us because they were stuck in chronic fatigue syndrome and wanted to recover from that. So a common theme, every single one of these people had extreme stress at some point that then led the body to burning out. Now it's interesting that when that happens, and I'll talk about patterns and we'll go back even further very shortly, but something that happens there is the stress could abate, and often a lot of, like, I'm thinking clients that we worked with as well, there might have been toxic workplaces, there might have been toxic relationships, there might have just been like extreme busyness and pushing themselves to the extreme. And then at some point the body is like, we can't do this anymore. So it's not necessarily that all of a sudden the stress disappears. It's like literally they can't put their body and their mind into those environments anymore. Like they can't work anymore because of their capacity and energy levels. But even if you remove yourself from a stressful environment, if there's still lack of trust with self that you're not going to continue pushing, then the handbrake will stay on. So the mind body can get to a point where it's not ready to let the handbrake off. It's not ready to like completely release all of these symptoms until it can trust you that you're not going to get yourself into the mess and the burnout again. And so this is actually like the biggest learning for a lot of the clients that we work with chronic fatigue and other symptoms of body burnout. So essentially when the brain feels safe, when it knows that it can trust that you're not going to continue running these burnout patterns and these chronic stress patterns and pushing past current capacity, then the energy will return. Then the body pain will start to dissipate because it can trust that you are being a different person and that the future will be lovely for you rather than just getting stuck in a pattern of like, oh, I've got my energy back, I've got my health back, now I'm going to go back and do all the things. And the reason why I'm talking about these busy patterns as well is the lady who submitted the case identified quite a few busy patterns. So it's likely that the body is still holding on to these patterns, preventing full healing. So things like anxiousness, worrying, overwhelm, feeling stressed out, overdoing, addictive doing, workaholic, easily offended, defensive, taking things personally, feeling frustrated with self and others. All of these patterns are the breadcrumbs that are showing that there is that even if the body has slowed down because of capacity, the unconscious mind, the brain, the nervous system hasn't. And so therefore it's impossible to heal when you're still running those internal busy burnout patterns.
I have a sharp and pointy saying about patterns like this that just helps to start digging and investigating. It's like, man, you sound scared. You sound afraid of something. What are you afraid that might happen? What's the worst thing that might happen? You know, if you stop running these patterns, if you stop feeling, you know, anxiousness, if you stop worrying about this stuff, if you stop stressing out about this, if you stop, she had alopecia.
No.
Oh, sorry, hair loss.
Hair loss. Yeah.
Oh, that's not the same thing.
I mean, that's an autoimmune condition.
Okay.
Hair loss is just
hair loss. Okay, so she's got hair loss, and what was I going to say? Oh yeah, where you're pulling your hair out over this. You're really trying. You're really worrying about this. You sound. If you're a workaholic, what are you afraid might happen if you stop? You're addicted to doing. What's the worst thing that might happen? You're easily offended. What are you afraid of when they say that, they do that? You're defensive. Why are you on guard? You know what I mean? So when you break all this, when you say it at first, they're like, I'm not scared. What are you talking about? I'm very confident. But then when you break it down in the language that they've used, it's like, oh yeah? Just beeps in the metal detector to get digging. It's not a diagnostic. It's just like a nice, to the point, hey, can we dig? Is this a good spot to dig in? Getting some beeps coming up. What do you reckon?
And doing it in a way that's judgment-free, curious. There's no shame. There's no guilt. Even letting go of frustration around it. It's like, oh, it's super interesting. I use this as a metaphor for clients when they start digging into metaphysical patterns and beliefs and programming. So most people are super excited to get their functional medicine lab test back. They're like, whoa, oh yeah, I thought I had that, and ooh, what's that? And ooh, oh, and can we fix that? And, you know, a lot of people, you know, there might be a little bit of nervousness before looking at the markers, but most people feel relieved, validated, and excited that they have specific data they can now work on and heal. And so in that same energy, we start looking at these metaphysical patterns and lab markers as well.
I find more people are less excited to do the digging into the metaphysical, because now we're actually not talking about just the body, because that body only approach is a fragmented, oh man, what's the word, well, it's kind of dissociated. You're what's the word I'm looking for? It's the Paul Taylor even talked about it, Rene Descartes, the model that we reductionist model. Thank you. Yeah. So when you start thinking holistically, well, now you're thinking about where you take things personal, and that is personal. That is very individual. And so now you're starting to uncover insecurities. Ouch! That really hurts. And so people who have this reductionist model mentality, culturally, are more likely to be excited about the physical things and less excited to go into the metaphysical. That's also really interesting. And that's another ding, ding, ding on the metal detector. You could dig into that as well.
Yeah.
Point being, this is, my favorite word is, instead of saying, oh, that's it, it's, that's interesting. I love using the word interesting, because it's judgment free, it's curiosity, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so, yeah, as you're working on like really you're working on your being, your whole being, not just the physical body. I think too, another reason why people like to take a reductionist approach, where it's like, oh yay, now I know that I've got leaky gut, what can I take, or how do I eat differently? It's like a great question. And how can you be different as well, so that you're not tearing away at your gut lining because there's this internal stress tiger constantly chasing you. So essentially, when you can heal all of that, the brain, the unconscious mind can take a big breath and exhale. It feels safe to be you. It feels safe to be in your body. It feels safe to be in the world. And when it can really trust you at this deep level, trust you that you're different, trust you that you're not going to continue running those patterns, trying to push past your capacity, trying to run away from deeper fears of self, then yeah, essentially like health returns. And it can move you out of what it does, actually, not it can, it does move you out of a hyperprotective sickness response, and it allows you to recover because it's safe to recover now. And that safety can only be achieved when these deeper stress response is happening at an unconscious level that is also connected to the brain, the nervous system, have been switched off. There's just a quick story before we finish off. One of our clients that we've been working with has made massive progress, and we were really working on rewiring old beliefs about self, clearing past trauma and events that were connected to those beliefs so they could be rewired and set free. And she was getting some improvements, but it was interesting that she still needed to make some serious life changes in the way that she was being. So there was still this like over responsibility pattern happening, where it was almost like, oh, you know, I have to look after everyone. And as we were working and rewiring at an unconscious level, she was understanding why she couldn't continue doing these things. And yeah, she started putting herself first, filling her own cup up first. And it wasn't until that moment that she was taking real action in the real world, proving to her unconscious mind, giving the unconscious mind so much evidence that not only was she ready to like do practices and take supplements and like fix things, but she was actually going to be different in real life. That's when deep trust was restored and her healing just fast paced.
Just before we finish up, just to I mentioned that if we didn't talk about this, I'd bring it up later. Just a couple of metaphorical beeps in the metal detector, not diagnostics, just interesting places where you could start questioning and doing some digging. I think about joy, and I think about when someone is experiencing stress and that like chemical sensitivity, environmental stuff. I think about, well, let's look at the metaphor of chemical sensitivity or environmental or things you're bringing into your body or people that are around you or situations, times and places. I often think about, all right, well, where are you overly sensitive? Where are you insecure? Where's the pressure? Where are you experiencing a lack of joy and happiness and peace in your life? What sort of context, what sort of situations, what sort of environments? Whenever someone has any sort of gut issue, I like to look at, well, what are the words you're saying? And so because there was a lump in the gut, I think, what's your gut feeling? How's your intuition? What's your gut telling you about your life? That's broad, isn't it? And you just whatever comes up. A lump, a pressure. Where are you feeling the pressure? What's your intuition? Where are you feeling this pressure in your life? What's keeping you up at night? Because there's night sweats. What are you worried about? What's the worst thing that might happen? I'm just rattling these off. Any sort of stress is a fight flight response kind of thing. So where are you on guard? Where are you being defensive, as I talked about before? What are you freaked out about? What's something terrible that might happen, or what's something that is happening, or what's something that is bringing up stuff that did happen maybe when you were a little kid. This was a like it could be like when she was really little.
It will all come back to something before the age of 7.
Yeah. That's at the once you dig,
which we've got lots of episodes about that.
The other thing is pulling your hair out. Like where are conflicts in your life? Maybe like literally interpersonal conflicts, but also interpersonal conflict. So it could be, I think about, what's this past week, there's been bombs dropped and drone strikes in the Middle East and wars declared, and it's a real awful situation for humanity. But then I think about interpersonal relationships. A part of me wants this, a part of me wants that. I have got a conflict going on. There's a conflict of interest. This part wants this part wants that. They're fighting against each other. I've got warring parts. That's exhausting. Surprise, surprise, this listener's got fatigue issues, pain issues, because you got a war inner yourself. Eczema, what's getting under your skin, where are your boundaries being invaded? There's more conflict. Where are you letting people in? Where are you letting stuff in? And that's about all I have to say about.
I think you need to rewind. There were a lot of coaching questions there, and listen to that like 10 times, because there'll be some gold. Like if you're ready to listen to yourself, there'll be some gold answers that come out of all those coaching questions.
Yeah, probably said
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening. As we said at the start, if you would like your own case anonymously reviewed on a Connect the Dots episode, just head to the show notes and you can click on the link and there'll be an application form that you can send in. If you are super keen to start your own journey, as I mentioned before, I've just opened my calendar. We've got some spots available for Connect the Dots initial consults. Not a lot, so jump in quick. And if you do jump in and it's like, there's nothing left, or the calendar is closed because my one-on-one times are full, make sure you pop your name down on our waitlist for our Ending Body Burnout Method program for when the doors open in June, because your very first one-on-one will be a Connect the Dots with myself.
Boom. All right, beautiful humans. We'll catch you next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout Assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.